Welcome to the Mid-Week Tease with me, Adelle Onyango, where I share some random and not too random thoughts on things. And in this episode, let's dive into this anger thing. I have always had such a complicated relationship with anger. In my childhood, I watched my dad consistently communicate his anger poorly and very abusively. He was physically abusive to my mom. I watched him mask other emotions in anger. I watched him pour his anger to the wrong people. So what that did was make me scared of being angry, scared of making other people angry, scared of anyone who is angry. I kinda would see anger as this terrible monster that we should keep hidden and locked away. I would be hyper vigilant when voices got raised. I would abandon my own feelings if I made someone angry, meaning I would do anything necessary to make sure they wouldn't be angry. Even if they had wronged me, I would just forgo how that made me feel, so that they wouldn't be angry anymore. And when someone would make me angry, it would frustrate me because this thing just felt so scary. It felt like I couldn't communicate it, and all of this would be quite overwhelming. All of these fears and the things I was scared about around anger fueled the people pleaser in me. I will please you at the detriment of my own emotions just so you're never angry with me. I remember last year, after a huge mental and physical breakdown that I spoke about in our flagship podcast, Legally Clueless, my doctor, not my therapist, my GP, added in her prescription for me that she wanted me to be angry more often. And she would constantly check up on that point anytime I went to see her. And so I'm finding myself since then allowing myself to be angry about things that have happened even years ago. It's so weird because most of these things I haven't had a conversation with the people involved just because there isn't necessarily space for that, but I'm still going through feeling the anger now. As I process the anger for two specific experiences, I've found that what I actually feel is betrayed, I feel abandoned, and I feel immense pain. So it's almost like the anger was hiding all of these other emotions, and we're going to get to that a little later. Now, as I build healthy boundaries, I have found my anger to be very useful in signaling to me, hey, I feel like a boundary of ours has been broken, or even something has happened that perhaps I wasn't aware before that I strongly dislike. So it's almost like anger is helping me learn more about myself. Now, in terms of communicating anger, I could still use a lot of work. I'm still struggling in that department. I know that I don't like speaking about my anger in the moment, so I like to take a few hours or even days, but I know I inevitably have to speak about it. I'm not too good in swallowing the anger and moving past the situation, especially in intimate relationships or really close friendships. So what I do, I resort to writing out what I'm feeling before bringing it up. And sometimes there's space for me to do that in a notebook with a pen. Sometimes I have to dive for my phone and quickly just jot something in my notes app. And the reason I do this is I found that the process of writing has made me understand why I've seen anger being called by quite a few psychologists and all of these wellness articles. It's been referred to as a secondary emotion, an emotion that masks other emotions. Because when I write it out, I find there's always a mishmash of other feelings, almost like the anger was the top layer, it was just the cream, but there's a cake underneath it. Now, anger shows up when you and I feel the need to defend ourselves, right? It's a sign that something's wrong, something needs our attention. And what I know to be true is neither acting out of anger or holding it in is healthy. But I think we always think we have to pick between those two, and both of them are just not healthy options. So in this episode, I want to share something I came across that may help you and I figure out anger better and help us communicate it better. And it's called the anger funnel. I read about it in a book called A Deeper Wellness, and it's a book by a clinical psychologist. Her name is Monica Vermani. She says for quite a while she's been using the anger funnel to help her patients, right? And so when I say funnel, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. A funnel, like you use it to, this is such a random example, but like, let's say you are recycling cooking oil. You use a funnel. I don't know if you guys do it or it's just a thing that, African people. I'm assuming you know that TikTok sound, but yeah. So it's the plastic V-shaped thing with like a little pipe thing at the bottom, right? And so, yeah, it funnels things. I want you to visualize a funnel, right? And so this is how this doctor breaks it down. She says, step 1, think of a situation in your past that's made you feel angry. Or maybe it's a situation you're going through right now, right? A time where, if it's in the past, it's a time where you acted out in anger, or even if you're like me and you have a complicated relationship with anger, maybe you suppressed your anger and you didn't stand up for yourself, right? Take a beat, think about that moment. Step 2 is to remember what I said about anger being this blanket that covers other primary emotions, right? So she talks about these other emotions being like sadness or feeling abandoned, betrayed, unsafe, lonely, scared, taken advantage of. The anger is normally like covering other primary emotions, right? And so think about what those emotions were that contributed to you feeling angry in that situation. Step 3, since we're using the same one situation, place the primary emotions, so whether it's like sadness, betrayal, feeling abandoned, etc., place those primary emotions at the top of the anger funnel. So like visualize yourself pouring them at the top of the funnel and just imagine the feelings trickling down the funnel. And when they come out of the like little pipe bottom, they pour out as anger. Just visualize that, right? And then step 4, you could continue imagining, or if you're like me and you prefer words, you could write down how you might have processed your anger had you been able to better pull back the blanket, examine, understand, and communicate the feelings that were underlying, that were covered by the anger. You could write it down. How could you communicate that better in that moment rather than suppress the anger, or rather than just view the emotion as only anger and not what's underneath, right? Because when you start peeling back the anger and seeing like, oh, I actually feel abandoned, you almost calm down, isn't it? And you start feeling like, okay, but why did I feel abandoned? Oh yeah, they did actually abandon me because my expectation was that they would act like A, B, C, D. So now we're going deeper, right? And not just loud anger that's not progressive. And even if you were to have a conversation with the person involved in that situation, I feel like you would be able to communicate your feelings much better because like the funnel has helped you understand it. Anyway, there is another step. Step 5 is putting the funnel to work. So the next time you're angry with someone, take a moment to think about the feelings at the top of the funnel that have led to you feeling angry, that have led to anger trickling out of the funnel. And once you think about that, Dr. Monica says you should have compassion for yourself and how you're feeling. Take time to consider how best to resolve whatever is causing you to feel unsafe or abandoned or insecure, whatever those underlying feelings are for you in that situation. And then you'll find that you start responding with more compassion rather than reacting in anger. And yeah, so like, I feel like that anger funnel explanation or exercise really helped me understand how anger is an emotion, but often it's a blanket emotion, right? It's covering other primary emotions. So the next time you're angry, take a beat, do the anger funnel to figure out the underlying emotions that the anger could be covering. And I really hope this helps you process your anger better or even communicate it better. But just know, if you have a complicated relationship with anger, you're not alone. I'm trying to navigate that as well. Thanks for listening to the Mid-Week Tease, a Legally Clueless Africa production. Episodes go out every Wednesday, and you can learn more about us by going to legallycluelessafrica.com.